Hello. So I wanted to do a test comparing the readout of the Hasselblad X2D II's preview, the back screen preview, and specifically the color channel readout with actual exposure in the RAW. This is mostly used to optimize the exposure to the right technique that I'm assuming everybody is familiar with at this point. If not, I'm going to link to an article below. But I basically wanted to see how Lightroom, Focus, and Raw Digger display the exposure differently as I'm making it compared to what the screen does. Now, what I did as a test, I basically used a ProPhoto flash, and I was incrementing the exposure on the flash while keeping the exposure on the camera the same. So my base or my starting exposure at ISO 50 was 1/60th of a second. The lens was wide open at 2.5. This is the 55mm Hasselblad lens. And once I got to the zone where the histogram on the camera is starting to touch the wall, instead of going one stop, I was going 1/10 of a stop. So you'll be able to see that in the tests that I'm about to show. And I discovered a few interesting things about the differences between Lightroom and Focus when they start crying that there is an overexposure or clipping compared to what Raw Digger shows. So let's take a look at the tests first, and then I'll come back and we can sort of discuss some of the other things I've noticed. So clockwise here we have Focus histogram, Lightroom histogram. Underneath we have Raw Digger, and the bottom one is the actual display of the Hasselblad. It's a little fuzzy because I recorded it with a little camera. But anyway, let's play this out. So that's one exposure, one full stop, another full stop here, another, and then at 7, I started going 1/10 of a stop, as you can see here. And this is about where the clipping happens in the raw file. Now here's the clipping as shown inside the Focus application. So at 7, we are seeing clipping, but actually not in the raw. So Focus is a little bit conservative here. Now Lightroom, I noticed, does the opposite. It actually doesn't show a clipping warning until way past the raw file clipping. So as you can see here, we're getting close to clipping in the Raw Digger graph, but Lightroom is still not showing any clipping. See, now we actually clipped the raw file and Lightroom is still not showing clipping. Now Lightroom is showing clipping at basically a full stop exposure difference. So I think I wouldn't trust Lightroom when you see that you have a file and it's not showing clipping. I would not trust Lightroom. You might actually have something in your raw that's clipping. And I noticed that especially on clouds, where you load the data and then you suck the exposure back down, or you bring it down, and then what ends up happening is the high whites on the clouds can get a greenish tinge, which is a signature Lightroom thing. So I'm not sure what's going on there, and if they're trying to do some intelligent highlight recovery, but you oftentimes end up with a greenish tinge. So what they might be doing, they might be extrapolating the channels that are not clipped and trying to reconstruct something for the channels that have clipped. So I'm not sure what's going on there for sure. Maybe somebody that has played with that more could chime in. But that's what I'm seeing in Lightroom. So the last test here is Raw Digger and its clipping warning. Just a note that the vignette correction here is not on. But if you look at Flash Power 7, the back of the camera is still pretty good at showing little clipping, and now it's showing clipping, and so does Raw Digger. So it seems like they're very close. The back display of the camera and what Raw Digger is showing are fairly close. So that's a bit surprising to me, because I assumed they would be way off, almost as off as Hasselblad's Phocus is once you load the images in. So anyway, that's an interesting finding. I'll do some more tests and try to maybe make another video. All right, that's it for now. Bye.